Hello and welcome to day 42 of the CoronaBLOG, May the 19th. My name's Mark Brophy, some background information and what I currently do. Continuing with our series of interviews around the world, today we're looking at Austria. We're going to look at the current situation and the help to business and families. Austria was very quick to identify areas of outbreak, and with only 629 deaths, it's one of the lowest in Europe per capita. Austria has been very successful in dealing with the coronavirus. Here's the timeline. 25th of February, 2 people travelling from Lombardy were the first cases. On the 1st of March, the ski resort of Ischgl was locked down. At the beginning of coronavirus, the north of Italy and Austria, the ski resorts tended to have many cases. On the 30th of March, face masks were announced as compulsory in shops and then later on public transport. The 1st of April, Austria started random testing. Not many countries have done random testing. On the 17th of May, 0 deaths were reported. So we're going to interview somebody in Austria. We're going to ask the name and occupation, whereabouts in Austria, how has Austria helped companies, the self-employed, families, and when does he think it will be possible to reopen everything? So, good morning, and can you tell me your name and what you do for a living?
Good morning, my name is Franz Heidinger. I'm a practicing attorney here in Vienna, a senior partner with the law offices of Alex Frank, and I'm also an adjunct faculty member at the University of Vienna School of Law, where I'm responsible for the field of Anglo-American legal system and Anglo-American legal English.
Okay, good. So you're in the capital, Vienna. And let's talk about Austria generally. What has the Austrian government, or maybe also at a state level, done to help companies through this period?
Okay, Austria was one of the first countries to be fairly strict on imposing a lockdown. And because of this, because we were such early movers, we were also quite successful in containing the catastrophe, I have to say. So therefore, we were now obviously in a position that we could open up our economy pretty soon. But the government, right from the beginning, insisted on introducing massive programs to assist people, to assist companies, to assist individuals and self-employed people. So we have considering the size of our country, we have a fairly massive program supporting almost every part of the industry, almost everyone. So as far as the companies are concerned, it's important to note that right from March, with retroactive effect of March 1st, we introduced a system which is close to what we heard last week about the furlough system in England. So basically, the government pays for 80% of your income. However, you have to be kept as an employee at a minimum of 10% of your workload and at a maximum of 90% of your workload. So somewhere in between those two, between 10% and 90%, you have to be actively employed and you must not be dismissed. So they cannot fire you. That's a program to retain as many people as possible. And whatever the difference is will be paid for by the state.
Just to be clear on that, Franz, because there is something that's very different to other countries. So people must work a minimum of 10% of their time. Is that correct?
Correct. If you want to benefit from that system, of course, we saw a lot of layoffs before that kicked in. So quite a significant number of people were made redundant. But then on the other hand, all those who decided, nah, I'd rather stick to my employees and not lose them for the time when everything will be, up and running again, you go for this other alternative, which basically is called Kurzarbeit, short work or short employment, which will be, government funded, co-funded. So the employees had to accept a certain cut in their salaries. They only get 80% instead of 100, but they only have to work between 10% and 90% max. Since the employer benefits from the scheme, also the employer has to pay the difference. So if, for example, you as an employer actually get 90% of the productivity of your employee, you have to pay for it as the employer. So it's not government funded. Government just pays for the difference between 10% and 100%.
Okay, good. And for self-employed people, what help is the government giving to self-employed people?
That's usually small and medium-sized enterprises or very small businesses. They got a monthly payment of €1,000, or in cases they were just startups and could not produce any numbers yet, they would get half of this. So €500 per month for 2 consecutive months, and we'll see what the future will bring. Those are just monthly payments, fixed payments that you receive. Everybody got those payments, number one. And number two, now with more time and more knowledge about what's going on and how people have suffered, you can also get a government subsidy on your actual losses. So if you now can prove, now that you have lost 80% of your income, then you would get up to half of this as a subsidy, which does not have to be paid back. Then we have loan facilities, then we have a moratoria on payment for the banks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a bouquet, it's a vast range of things that you can get.
Okay, very good. And for families, is there any specific help for families?
Well, not really for families, but since almost every member of the family will participate, if you are an employee, if you're self-employed, if you run the business, whatever, then you will get benefits. So there is no extra thing on top of that. However, I can mention 2 things which were, for example, organized here in Vienna, which is the largest province, the largest state of Austria. We got 2 vouchers. The elderly got a taxi voucher, so they could go and go to shopping or have somebody take them to the doctor, etc. That's one thing which is quite useful, even though it's a small scale help, but it does help. And the second thing is something that was just introduced last weekend by the local government, which is up for a public election. That's why they're very generous with our tax money, and that's vouchers for restaurants. So if every family gets €25 per person, or 50 euros per family in the form of vouchers to go to a restaurant. So that helps the economy. That's not part of the new movement to reboost the economy after everything has been opened again, or most of the things have been opened again. People should go out and not just stroll around and look around, but they should also be incentivized to spend money, which apparently they do. But these restaurant vouchers are a very nice gesture. You cannot use them for drinking, just for food, but you have to pay for your own drinks. Okay,
very nice idea. I've not heard that in another country. So something good a first from Austria. Not from Austria, this is just from Vienna.
That's Vienna, yeah.
That's Vienna, sorry. Okay, and for looking towards the future, when do you think everything will be open in Austria, including schools, including absolutely everything? When do you see a complete return?
Okay, the complete return is difficult to answer, but we've now opened schools again as of today. Universities are open for teaching, but it's distance teaching, of course, so students will not be able to return until the fall semester. We do have issues with cultural events because of the distance rules. It's difficult to organize a play or to organize, a concert if only every 3rd seat can be taken. So those are the difficulties which we're facing right now, which we're discussing right now. And it will probably take until September or October to remove all those restrictions, always obviously hoping that the disease will not come back in the same dimension as we've seen it, or even worse. So that is obviously the question mark, which is out there everywhere, and it's just, it has to be kept in mind.
Okay, well, thanks very much. It sounds like things are going very well in Austria, especially in
But
Vienna.
you know what is important is that we open up our borders. Now we get daily news that Germany is opening up its borders, Slovenia, Croatia, so that Austrians can go to other countries for their vacation plans, and other people can come into Austria and spend their vacation here. I think this is really the most important concern for many people in this country, because this country, just like Italy, is largely dependent on tourism. So those are real concerns, but we're hopeful.
And we hopefully will be opening the borders in Italy on the 3rd of June, and we would like Austrians to come and spend the summer by the beaches in Italy, if possible. Okay.
We're all keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, we spoke to Franz, who is a lawyer and teacher of legal English in Vienna, including he works also in the university there, as well as being a partner in his own law firm in Vienna. Austria has helped companies in a wide range of possibilities. Loans, one scheme, if you can report 80% losses, if you can show 80% losses, up to 50% of that will be compensated. Austria also has a furlough scheme, similar to many other countries, but with one small difference, if you noted, that people have to work between 10% and 90%, and the company has to pay the amount that people work. But the government will cover up to 80%, but people must work. The self-employed can receive up to €1,000 if people have just started as self-employed, or very new startups, up to about 500. Financial assistance to families. Now this is very nice. Franz spoke more about Vienna, where he lives, than Austria. So Vienna, there are two schemes, one for the elderly, taxi vouchers, which is very nice, and another one introduced just last weekend, €25 per person, or 50 a family, to spend in restaurants, but not on alcohol. Okay. To reopen everything, living in Vienna, culture is very important for him. So when he thinks of everything, it's not just schools, it's opening all cultural events, and that's difficult with social distancing. We're hoping as soon as possible. Austria has a population of 8.6 million, and there are very few new cases. The daily new cases peaked at the end of March. As we can see here, that peak is at the end of March. We can see the graph has come right down. Today we've looked at Austria. One key area was random testing. We've had an interview with Franz, and the daily new deaths we've seen peaked a long time ago in Austria, and more or less everything's open except for culture. Thank you very much, and see you all tomorrow.